I've always been rather fond of books. In fact, I think they're just about the most important things we've ever created, the building blocks of our civilization. So, when someone suggested a journey in search of the genius who invented the printing press, I jumped at the chance.
My lord, is this it? This is it?
This was the man who launched the first media revolution and opened the door to the modern age. But his story is shrouded in mystery. So to get closer to him, we also decided to stage an experiment and build our own medieval printing press.
So beautiful.
That meant getting to grips with the tools and technology of the 15th century.
Don't do that, Stephen.
And actually making some of the ingredients with my own bare hands.
This takes me back to the Archerman School, where I was always a dunderhead.
As it turned out, that was the most revealing bit of all.
I feel connected to Gutenberg somehow just by doing this.
So, here it is then, the slightly more hands-on than I expected story of Johannes Gutenberg and his marvelous machine. His printing machine was the most revolutionary advance in technology since the invention of the wheel. And we're still living with its consequences today, as you can see here in the basement of the British Library, where they hold a copy of every book published in English.
You know, there are 14 miles of shelves here. There are another 8 miles added every year as 3 million new books come on stream in British. And above me, all the readers demanding their books have little idea that there's this labyrinth of shelves here.
It was the invention of the printing press which started all this, making mass production of books possible for the first time in history. Within a few years, there were millions of them in circulation. And as they traveled, they carried their precious cargo of new ideas or theories, philosophy or propaganda to every part of Europe and beyond, sowing the seeds for that great cultural blossoming we call the Renaissance. And this was his calling card, one of the first and finest books created using his new machine. To the modern eye, the Gutenberg Bible opens a window onto a vanished world of monks and monasteries. But when it first appeared in the 1450s, it was viewed not as a reminder of the past, but as a signpost to the future, glittering proof that a new information age was dawning in Europe, fueled by the power of the printed word. I'm starting to share the sense of excitement Gutenberg must have felt when he was finally ready to start printing. By the late 1440s, he had moved on from Strasbourg, which had recently been terrorized by a marauding band of French mercenaries called the Armagnacs. Perhaps they were the reason that he decided to head home to Mainz. As usual, money was tight, so he borrowed some cash from a relative. This house was used as security for the loan, and he struck up a partnership with a new investor called Johann Fust. It was a deal he would later regret, but it did give him the cash injection he needed to set his press running. He didn't start with the Bible, far too ambitious. He road-tested the new technology on modest print jobs, like this Latin grammar book.
I remember that.
To show the church that his invention presented an opportunity and not a threat, he also printed documents like this papal indulgence.
Now, indulgence is this wonderful Catholic way of raising money, weren't it? It is a bit like the same idea. You offset your sins, don't you? It must have been marvellous for them to have Gutenberg's new technology, because before that, of course, each one would be handwritten by a scribe. And it's not just a quick voucher, it's a lot of lines. So it was a very good way of Gutenberg showing off his new technology.
Yes. I think it shows also that the church really was very interested in printing, that they did not consider it a black art, as it is said in German. They were interested because they saw all those advantages it brought to them.
With church support for his magnum opus, there was just one more issue to resolve. Most high-end books in those days were written not on paper, but on something called vellum. And what was vellum made out of? It was made out of those little fellows, those pretty brown, round-eyed calves. They yielded their skins just as they yielded the rest of themselves for veal chops to the tables of the mighty. Gutenberg, who was determined that his Bible was to be nothing if not the highest possible quality, thought that he would print every Bible on the finest vellum. But either he or his business partners did some serious mathematical modelling, as it would now be called, and they quickly realised that actually only a few could be done in vellum. It would take 140 calves to provide enough vellum for just a single copy of the Bible. For a print run of 180, which is what he planned, Gutenberg would have needed a staggering 25,000 of the poor creatures. That's an awful lot of veal chops in anyone's book. There are, therefore, a few Gutenberg Bibles extant in the world which are printed on vellum, but most are printed on paper.
Truth, let's see how it fits. That's not bad, actually.
That's not bad.
Yeah, I think we're almost okay there.
Okay, right, here we go.
Oh my goodness.
Wait for the creak.
Good luck, everybody.
Here we go. Cross your fingers.
Well, there's impression there, Martin.
I can see
There is
now.
indeed.
Yeah. Look at how
Yeah.
much it's bit into the paper.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh my word.
Yeah, that is quite remarkable.
Fabulous.
That is extraordinary. Congratulations, everybody.
Gutenberg's first edition of the Bible ran to 180 copies, each containing more than 1,200 pages, which had to be set, inked and printed.
Very nice.
And that was just the black and white work. After they'd left the press, each page was hand-decorated by an illuminator before the whole thing was bound together to make a finished book.
This is the miracle. They're identical, each one of these wonderful pages, and that had never been seen before in the history of the world.
Our experiment's nearly finished, but for Gutenberg, this was just the beginning of a monumental 2-year print run. But what a beginning it was. The first copies of Gutenberg's Bible were displayed at the Frankfurt Trade Fair in 1454, and they caused a sensation. Today, fewer than 50 of those original books are still in existence. One of the finest is held here at Göttingen in Germany.
You know what, I'm genuinely tingling with excitement about coming close to a Gutenberg Bible, having only seen one through glass, and having examined so much about its means of production, and having discovered just how important it was and what a symbol it is of everything the modern age stands for. The idea of actually touching one, albeit through cotton gloves, is giving me goose flesh. I cannot believe this. You know, I've looked at them through glass and I've read about them, and to be so close is an extraordinary feeling.
You want to have a look?
Please.
This is actually
It
a
smells
remark by Jakob Grimm.
of the famous Brothers Grimm.
Yeah, when he was a librarian in Göttingen, it says, eine Gutenbergische Bibel, a Gutenberg Bible. And he says, von höchster Seltenheit, of the highest rarity.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
And this is the first page of the first volume.
Do you know what's interesting is that although the illumination and decoration and the, you call that the rubrication, don't we?
Right.
The red letters, literally. Although they're very beautiful, it is the typeface that really draws the eye, isn't it?
Yes, it's, I mean, people have said that it's, even at the start of this new technology, that it is also an example of perfection. In a
Yes.
sense, and
The general view is that it's so much more beautiful than it need to have been, as it were.
That is
isn't it?
very
That
true,
it's-
yes.
It's simply, he was clearly a very driven perfectionist.
yes, he uses what the scribes in the monasteries also used. He used abbreviations. That was the only way to create this right margin as clean as it is.
Now there's a little hole here. What's
Yeah,
going on?
somebody must have
What a vandal.
Plundered this in, I don't know when this happened. You see, the illumination went up the page and somebody needed a model for an illumination. So they cut it out and put it next to his manuscript and painted it off this model, which is unfortunate.
Naturally, I feel very privileged to be able to leaf through this unbelievably rare and important object, a Gutenberg Bible, in my hands. I'm wearing white gloves, I'm terrified of breathing water vapor on it, and yet, you know, the odd thing is that it doesn't feel like something that is going to be crumbling to dust if I turn the pages too fast. It feels very solid and robust, and after all, it was made to be used more than once a day. I mean, if it was bought by a monastery, I guess it would have been used for all the offices of the day. And it was a solid object. A Bible was a thing that people expected to turn to all the time. And it isn't a fragile little thing like an ornament. It's a useful object. And the extraordinary thing about this is that although there were only 100 or so of these made, only 12 of these in existence on vellum, you know that aside from the illuminations, every page is the same. And that was really the most remarkable breakthrough, wasn't it? That somebody in a monastery in Germany, somebody in a palace in Florence, somebody in a private house in Amsterdam could turn to the same page number, the same word would begin at the top, end at the end. They were looking at mass production for the first time. And although they were very rich, those who could afford it, they were nothing like as rich as those who could afford ones that had been made by scribes, handwritten. I can't believe I'm here looking at it.
I'd like to report a happy ending for the man who created this extraordinary book, but it didn't turn out quite like that. Do you remember Mr. Fust, the dragon who bankrolled the printing of the Bible? Soon after the presses started running, he asked Gutenberg to repay the money he'd borrowed. Gutenberg didn't have the cash, so he was forced to hand over all his printing equipment instead. It had taken him almost a lifetime to build his machine. Now, so soon after it had been completed, it was snatched from Gutenberg's grasp. He ends here, in the village of Eltville, a few miles outside Mainz. Gutenberg had family roots here, and his friends helped him get back on his feet and even to set up a new printing workshop. But he never enjoyed the riches which his invention earned for his former business partner, Fust.
Well, Gutenberg finally got the recognition he deserved. Up in the castle there, the Elector called him a knight and gave him a pension, and when he died, the world knew that he had founded the modern art of printing. But it's not that, really, that has brought me here. It's the thought of what went on after Gutenberg's death. The replication of printing across Europe at such a speed, an unimaginable speed for that time, from 0 books to 20 million in just 50 years.
Gutenberg's technology spread across Europe like a benign virus. It gave new ideas a ticket to ride and kick-started the Renaissance. For the next 500 years, his method of printing was used to make books everywhere. His was the machine that made us.
And that art, the art of movable type printing, defines us. It's our civilization more than anything else. I can imagine a modern world without cars, I can imagine one without telephones or computers, but I cannot begin to imagine a society anything like the one we have that doesn't have the printed word.